Hey everyone, this is Matt from End Sickness, and I'm going to be talking about how you change the storyline of your chronic illness and why that is so important to healing. This is one of my favorite videos I'm going to do of all time because this is just so critical to healing. And I was a victim of a bad storyline for a long time. I bought into a bad storyline that really held me back from healing. So I'm going to talk about my old story, the epiphany I had. I'll talk about the benefits of revising your storyline. I'll talk about the same story is going to produce the same symptoms, right? I'll talk about how you have to leave the victim role and turn into the opportunist. And we'll talk about how looking for blessings within this illness, how that really starts to make you grateful for things in your life and you start to really see the point of it all. We'll talk about how people just want this to be over with. I went through it myself. I was sick for 15 years. I understand more than anybody would understand, trust me. But we'll talk about why that's kind of not the right attitude though as well, and how that goes against you and defeats what you're trying to accomplish. Talk about how there's this new version of yourself waiting at the end of this illness when you're well, and how you're going to respect this version of yourself in a way, and you enjoy this version of yourself in a way you never have before, right? And we'll talk about how you have to seek lessons in the illness, and once you actually embrace the lessons, how the illness just gets better, right? And how you have to learn from adversity, and how you got to be able to become triumphant in adversity, and how this is kind of just a test in that respect. So first, let me talk about my story, okay? So, for the first 6 years or so of my illness, I was extremely sick, and I had pretty much no progress I was making. I was the victim of the illness. Everything was happening to me. I couldn't eat this, I couldn't do that. I couldn't, right? Everything was just bad luck. Why it happened to me? Why me, right? And eventually, after 6-7 years of why me, I realized that, hey, this is not going to help me to get better. This why me is just making me feel worse. And I had this epiphany. I realized, hey, at that moment, I need to change the storyline, right? I have to change the story, or I'm going to suffer the rest of my life. And at that moment, I had a vision, and it was of me being better one day and helping people who were sick. And right then, instantly, my storyline changed. My vision led to a change in my storyline. All of a sudden, I saw a way out. I thought to myself, man, with all the years I've been suffering, when I get better, if I could teach people how to get better, that this would make it all worth it, right? So for me, the storyline was, something I wanted to do with my life was always help people, right? But I didn't know how to do it, but this illness gave me the opportunity. So me changing the storyline at that moment was the only reason I'm here today, the only reason that I got better, the only reason I've helped all these people, etc. And the storyline was the foundation to everything, because from there, everything I saw just fed into the story, right? So the benefits of revising the storyline, the storyline is going to dictate how you see life, okay? If you, for example, have a storyline that this is all going to be permanent, this is your illness, it's causing this, there's nothing you can do about it, then you're going to see reminders of that storyline everywhere in your life, right? If you have a belief this is coming to an end soon, it's all working out for you, that, that is just a matter of time, then you're going to just see things that remind you of that everywhere, and then you're going to feel more comfortable, and you're going to anticipate healing. And this is the difference between a bad storyline and one that reinforces healing and safety. You got to be positive. But you also got to start feeding into the story. You got to have a vision of what you actually want. A vision of you being better and what you're going to do with your life. And start to think of the things that you're gonna do when you're better. This is important because you have to have something to hold on to in those moments when things are difficult, So I'll talk about the same story equals the same symptoms. If you don't change your story about your illness or your life in general and how you're a victim of childhood trauma, or how you're a victim of something that someone did to you in your life in the past that still you're holding resentment towards them, if you're not changing your story, then your symptoms aren't gonna be changing, okay? And reality is there's much more to it than just physical, right? It's our emotional, it's our perspective. These things all play into how we experience life and how our well-being and our symptoms, right? So you have to change your storyline unless you want to just experience the same symptoms. So number one, you got to change that storyline if you want to get to the next step. You cannot be the victim. You got to become the opportunist when it comes to the illness. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. How could this be benefiting you? How could this illness be benefiting you? At the end of this, how could you have something that you would have never had if you didn't go through this illness? How is this possible? Start thinking that. Start believing that somehow this is going to work to your advantage in the long run, and it's going to benefit you. And guess what? It'll start to work out that way. It did for me. It was everything that I hold dear in my life came to me through my illness. Everything that I value more than anything, it all came through my illness. It was the greatest blessing of my entire life, It could be for you too. It's all about your perspective and what you anticipate, okay? So look for the blessings within it. You know, start to realize you're getting more control over your decisions. You're getting more control over your emotions. You're addressing emotions that would have never been addressed. You're forming better, more meaningful relationships. You know, you're finding the real passions of your life. There's lots of things, you know, you're finding inner strength. You're building confidence in yourself that you could get through this adversity, things that are difficult in the future. Look for the blessings within this illness. That's going to be the thing that is going to keep you going and feeling that you're building momentum through it and overcoming it, and that it's all worth it, and that this isn't just something that's traumatic that you have to get over and forget about. You know, you got to embrace this healing in the journey along the way, right? So you just want to be over this, right? I understand. You just want to be over this illness. I'm so sick of it, man. Dude, I was sick for 15 years, all right? I understand. If anybody understands. And then when I got better, my daughter got sick for 6 years. Didn't understand what was going on for 22 years of my life, pretty much. There was illness around me in some manner, right? And I understand what it's like to want to rush these things, okay? But now I'm telling you, from what I've learned, I can help you through my website, through these videos. You just got to simplify it. Stick with me, read these things, listen to these videos, and it'll be simple. It'll just be about self-control and making the right decisions with the information you have, you know? You just want it to be over. You can't rush it. You have to slow everything down, The more that you feel safe about your future, the less you'll be in a rush, okay? So there's a new version of yourself waiting. I want to tell you about. At the end of this, when you're better, there's going to be a new version of yourself that's the best version of yourself, that you have full confidence in, that you love, that you respect, that all these things that you always wanted to have this good inner relationship with yourself. And by overcoming this illness, addressing these emotions, addressing these self-sabotaging behaviors, all these things, you get to a point where you meet a new version of yourself that you are just in love with, that you fully just are happy with, and then you realize at that moment, wow, I could have never got here if it wasn't for this illness. And the illness becomes the blessing, the conduit that got you to this version of yourself, the connection with that higher self, the real point of your life, right? So this new version of yourself is waiting. You got to seek the lessons. You got to learn from adversity. You got to see what's trying to be shown to you over and over again. It's not about finding the next supplement, the next doctor over and over again. It's about trying to see what you're not willing to see over and over again. Which foods are causing me issues? Is there mycotoxins in my house? You know, what emotions are triggering me? Where am I blaming other people for my emotional issues, or blaming other people for my circumstances? You know, starting to willingly look into these things, journal, document them. This is what I do with clients. We journal what they're eating, their symptoms. We journal emotional triggers. We go through these things on a weekly basis. We work as a team. I don't give up on any of my clients until they're better. We keep on working through it, and we face it head on. We run towards our problems versus run away from them, sweep them under the rug. So hopefully this has been you know, very helpful for you. You got to change that storyline if you want to be able to get better. The story is everything. It's the color glasses you're looking for is dictated by your story. So you got to have a solid storyline. If you have questions about that, you want to go over your storyline, get in touch with me. I do brain retraining, neuro retraining, help people get through chronic illnesses, trauma. I had PTSD I no longer deal with because of these things. And watch my videos on YouTube, on my website, etc. There's going to be hundreds more. Be out here in nature teaching you how to heal yourself. So thanks for watching, everybody, and subscribe to my page.